Are you ready to be unmessable with? Well, you are in the right place. Welcome to Be Unmessable With, the podcast where you get the inspiration, strategy, and coaching to be unmessable with, no matter what life throws at you. And now, your host, Josselyne Herman-Saccio.
Hey there, welcome to the Be Unmessable With podcast. I'm your host, Josselyne Herman-Saccio, and I'm very excited about my guest today. His name is Tyrone Jackson, and he's a trusted stock market trader. He's a mentor. He's a wealth building coach to major Silicon Valley and Hollywood executives. He teaches his students how to create wealth and residual income, which is something that I learned a lot from him about, by trading and investing online. He's built his reputation on his unique ability to simplify stock trading. And I can vouch for that because before I met him, I just was like, whatever that is, I don't know anything about it and it seems too risky. And now I'm passionate about it and do it every day. And it really is because of everything I've learned from Tyrone. He has a really successful podcast also called Trading Stocks Made Easy, which you should totally check out. We'll have that in the show notes. He's a frequent guest on radio and TV shows, including Yahoo Finance and the NASDAQ and CBS Market Watch. And he's also a producer and a media mogul and someone I consider my wealth coach and my friend. So welcome to the Be Unmessable With podcast, Tyrone.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here with you, Josselyne.
It's great to see you always. And is there anything I left out? Anything you want to let people know about who you are, what you do before we get into your journey and how you ended up doing what you do?
No, I'm just happy to be here. And I started this brand called The Wealthy Investor about 15 or 20 years ago. And I've helped so many people achieve financial freedom. And I'm so proud of that.
Yeah, you should be, because, you have definitely been integral in my journey to create financial freedom and make that difference for other people too. I always send people to your website because it's so valuable, the teaching that you do. But tell us about how you ended up doing this, because it's certainly not something you started out doing. So how did you wind up being the wealthy investor, as we can see from all the posters behind you, thewealthyinvestor.net, thewealthyinvestor.net. I love it. I want posters. I know. I want posters that say be unmessable with, be unmessable with.com, be unmessable with.com. I'm going to make posters. That's it. But they're going to have your picture on them. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you really should get them, because it's quite an ego hit when you walk in a room and there's a lot of you. It was so funny because I was raised by a single parent in New York City, and my mother was well-intentioned, but she had a hard time paying the bills, and I didn't want to be that way. So when I was 13 or 14 years old and I started to learn about money and want more expensive things, my mother goes, here's the advice I want to give you. You should grow up and get a job where you can earn overtime. That was her big thing. But she also had a saying, the more you make, the more they take, meaning the United States government. So get a job where you can earn overtime. They'll take half of it in taxes, but at least you'll make more. That was the extent of my financial education. And I remember thinking at the time, but what if I don't want a job?
I mean, because that sounds horrible. I would not want to do that at all.
Like, Mom, I want to be rich. She was like, that doesn't happen for people like us. And I was like, I don't know, maybe it could happen for me. So I started taking my allowance, and I used to go to a place called Barnes and Nobles, and I would go and take my allowance and I would spend it on books, on mutual funds. And that's when I got a sense of like, okay, somehow you could have a better life if you put money to work for you. How do you do that? And that's how the journey began.
Amazing. Amazing. So tell us about, some of the things you teach people that you've found makes the biggest difference. And I know from knowing you as well as I do, that it's not just strategies in the stock market that you have to deal with. You have to deal with people's mindset around money, which is a big, huge part of it. So talk a little bit about how you tackle that.
Well, this is the most important thing to me before we get to what stock to trade and buy and sell. All of the money that you earn in this lifetime is based on your beliefs about what is financially possible for you, right? So I always start off saying, hey, if I could help you make $500 a week, how many people in the room think that that is possible? Hands go up. Now, if I could also help you make $5,000 a week, would that be a help to you? And a few less hands. And I go, well, why don't I just teach you how to make $50,000? And people go, hey, what kind of scam are you running here, right? And I find that most people are taught to trade time for dollars, right?
Mhm.
And time for dollars has nothing to do with wealth. And if you really wanted to experience financial freedom, you have to pursue something in life that allows you to have residual income. So whether you get up at 10 a.m. or not, that money is there. Whether you travel for work or not, $5,000 comes in. So it's reprogramming people and their expectations about what is real, because that's really where wealth begins, in your mind. And I know that because today I have a life that I'm the wealthiest one in my family. I live in Malibu by the beach. I have a beautiful home on 10 acres of land in New York. I can get another home if I want, but that means another housekeeper and another set of responsibilities. I'm like, I think I'm good
And
where I am.
floods and
Yes,
plumbing issues
floods,
and
hurricanes. And
yes.
like, I don't really want that right
Yeah.
now, but I do want a boat. So I'm working on a boat. All of that starts in your belief system, in your mind, not just for me, but for everyone who's listening or watching right now.
And what do you think, given I talk about being unmessable with, what do you think are the number one or two things that really mess with people around money? Because that is an issue for people, whether they have it or they don't.
Yeah.
They are messable with money. What have you discovered in your work with people?
Well, this is after 15 years of being the wealthy investor. I've met a lot of people with money, a lot of people who have desires around money. It's based on how much you want your life to change. See, if I start talking to you about your money beliefs, that means that you're going to have to examine your history, what your parents told you, things about your cousin, your family, the world. And most of what you learned when you were growing up is wrong if you
Right.
want to be wealthy, right?
Isn't that
So
amazing, though, that we don't get taught how to be wealthy? We get taught, I don't even know what we get taught. I can't even say what my kids are being taught in school because I can't identify anything that they're being taught around money.
yeah, because in school, America is obsessed with training the working class, people who will work for others. In this country, we don't train entrepreneurs. Even when you go to business school, Columbia B School, or some of the big schools, you're really taught how to take your master's degree and make money for someone else. If we were to switch the emphasis in this country to entrepreneurship, we
Mm.
would also simultaneously be teaching wealth. But we don't do that here. And that kind of indoctrination for 12 years into the idea that I'm going to trade time for dollars for my whole life is what most people buy into. But the good news is it doesn't have to be that way.
No, it doesn't. And it's interesting because, as you know, I manage actors. I have a company that has managed actors for, 25 some odd years. And residual income is part of that game. I mean, if you do a commercial, you spend a day shooting that commercial. But if that commercial runs, as you know, you get residuals. And that's where most of the money that I make as a manager comes from, the residuals. It doesn't come from the weekly rate or the daily rate. It's
Correct.
all from residuals, which is obviously where the actors make the money from. And so I wasn't like totally clueless to the idea of residual income when I
Mhm.
started doing, the work to study what you teach,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like accessible to me. I didn't see how I was going to get residual income unless I started acting, which I was certainly not about to do. I praise be to my clients, but no, thank you, not for me.
Yeah.
So what is it that you can advise people to start looking at different avenues, because it's not just the stock market, but obviously that's something that you're masterful with,
Mhm.
to generate residual income, because it does change your life.
Oh, it does. For a lot of people, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is real estate, which you're going to buy a home, rent it out to someone else. They're going to pay the rent. Rent rises over time. And if they pay you on time,
I know you have a
you will
story
have
about
residual
this.
income. Believe me, I got lots of stories about that. If they pay you on time and you have 2 or 3 properties, you have residual income. I tried real estate. It didn't work for me because I didn't know anything about painting a roof or toilets or any of that kind of stuff. And I didn't like going to court to collect the money. So when I discovered stock
Yes.
market trading, that made sense. But here's, Jocelyn, what really excites me. Like, In the digital world, you can open up a Shopify store and create residual income and sell, mugs with things on them or other
Yeah,
items
I
that
don't
are
have one
not
of my
even
mugs. I
yours.
would show
So
you my Be Unmessable with mugs, but I don't have one with me.
exactly. I could sell these posters if I
You
wanted to.
could, and I would buy them. And
But
then I just put my website on the bottom and just have lots of you all around me.
there you go. So, this era is so exciting. The only problem with that is startup costs. Most people don't have, 25, 50, $70,000 to put into a business to hope that they will get residual income. And that's why I like the stock market. If you have a mutual fund, you quickly liquidate it, you start trading stocks, cash on cash return, like spendable cash. If you
Yeah.
take that cash that you learn to generate and you invest it, now you're building wealth. So it's really simple at its essence.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's not easy, I like to say, because mostly what you're battling is your belief system and your fear that, oh, if I'm in the stock market, I could lose everything, or, there's people who know about that. I'm going to leave that to my financial advisor. And when I first met you, I love my financial advisor, but slowly but surely I've been taking over more and more of my portfolio because I'm getting just as good or better return on what I'm doing using your system than whatever's happening in those mutual funds, where I don't really have a say over any of that. It's a group of stocks that I don't get to choose. I don't get to study them and say, okay, yes, I want to invest here. Somebody wrote on my social media yesterday, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And the second best time is today. And I thought, and the same is true about buying Microsoft stock. The best time was
Yes.
20 years ago, but the second best time is
Yes.
today.
That is so true.
Yeah. So
That is so true. So every time is a great time to take control of your money. I want to make 2 points though.
Good.
In the financial world, I always say to people, there are different styles. Like in the martial arts world, I'm not much of a martial artist, but
Well, my
I know that
husband
there's
is. So.
taekwondo, there's karate. Well, of course, your husband's a black belt.
Well, no,
But
but whatever.
okay.
Whatever
Well,
those
that
things
that
are.
was the rumor. That
Yeah,
was the rumor.
exactly. It's like it's all smoke and mirrors. But yes, he's very good.
Well, in the financial world, there are different styles of money management. And if you have a financial advisor, they're advising you over, if they're doing their job, a wide range of vehicles, right? So they have money in a life insurance policy for you. They have money in a mutual fund, tax-free
Yeah.
bonds. However, they don't have residual income streams set up for you. So you have to become a stock trader in order to do that. So that's what I teach people how to do, is how to manage their own money, not like it's a mutual fund, but like it's a hedge fund that must generate money every month to make profits. And it's
I love that.
very empowering. Yeah.
It
Mhm.
is. It's super empowering and it's a little addictive. I have to say, I get a little addicted to,
Mhm.
what can I trade? I look in the market. I'm like, what's happening? Is there something I can roll? Is there something I can volatility trade? So it is a little like, you're looking for your next hit. But if you're smart and
Mhm.
not greedy, that's a big thing you talk about, is not being greedy. And I think that's so important. Say a little bit about that, because it's not just in the area of money and trading, but greedy in life can really lead to people's downfalls as well. What have you discovered about greed?
Okay, again, this comes from, I'm like Tony Robbins. He takes all those years of data and then he's able to teach people based on what he's learned. Because to be a great teacher, you have to be a great student, right? This is what I've learned. People are greedy trading stocks because they don't believe there's a tomorrow, right? So if I felt like, oh my God, I've discovered this great thing in the stock market, I got to make as much money as I can. But this tomorrow, you can make a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow, a little bit next. Why? Because this may go away. Let me tell you something. The stock market's been here for 100 years. It's never going away. So if you learn how to pace yourself and trade on certain days, you develop a little something called discipline so that you can maximize your dollars. So for example, I know there's certain trades that I only place on a Wednesday, right? And it has to do, we sell something called covered calls. Implied volatility on a Wednesday in certain stocks tends to be just naturally higher. Some of it has to do with the way options are priced, et cetera, et cetera. So I know that there are Wednesday trades. There are Monday trades that I like. There are 4-week trades that I like, right? So when you learn to be disciplined, you learn how to put all of this information to work for you as a trader, because there is a tomorrow. You're trading for today as well as profits in the future. So when you come to an understanding of that, there's less greed, right? Because I have trades that I know are going to pay off big 13 weeks from now. And then I have my smaller micro trades. So I realize, oh, I'll take the money for the 13 weeks up front, and I'll have these micro trades to trade around. And boy, that could earn me an easy $47,000 this month if I take a disciplined approach instead of like, oh my God, I got to make all the money today.
And I know that some people are listening and saying $47,000 this month, like I make that in a year or whatever, or twice that in a year. How could I do that if I don't have a lot of money to start with in the stock market? Like my kids, my kids have whatever they've saved up, or they've gotten, holiday gifts from family and stuff. How do they start trading when they can't afford to buy 1,000 shares of this or 500 shares of this? What's the way for people to just start today?
The magic is just get started with $500. Go to E-Trade, open an account with $500, and then put in $100 a week. Believe me, in 3, 4, 5 months' time, you will have a portfolio. And it's interesting because you mentioned your kids. So my youngest daughter is finishing up a BFA at a school in New York, and she understands residual income. She understands that she can have as much as she wants. And we were just together. She flew out for a spring break, and she goes, Dad, how do I get started? I say, you get started with something small. Because she's going to college and working, I want to make sure that she continues to work. So she realizes, I don't want to spend my life doing this. And I say, hey, let me know when you have $500 from your job to put in, let's say, an E-Trade account, and I will match you. Right? Because all big things start small with something that seems insignificant. And by the way, this is a part of a mentality I think people need to understand. When you start small, you're really starting something very big if you are consistent.
Yes, the discipline is so key to be consistent. And that's what people don't do with exercise. They don't do it with their diets. They don't do it with their money. And any place where you're not disciplined, you're not going to be able to produce reliable, sustainable results, period.
Correct. And here's another interesting pattern, Josselyne. Everybody, or most people, will come into some kind of money at some point in their life, whether it's a bonus, a large income tax refund, something that you can't see will show up in your life at some point, right? Someone will leave you some money, or you'll be a part of something that does very, very well. And if you don't have a financial education, when that opportunity hits you, you won't know what to do with it. It'll simply just pass you by. But I always say wealth is nothing but a series of positive habits. If you've been engaged in the positive habit of putting money away every single month, when this great thing happens to you, it's just part of your routine.
So let me ask you a question. So if people are listening and they don't have an E-Trade account, and they don't have, and by the way, E-Trade is not the only platform. I mean, you could do this on many different platforms if you are already with a financial platform like Schwab or Merrill or Fidelity or whatever. But the point being, once somebody starts putting money away, let's say they have $500, they've put it away. Do they just put it in the account, or are they building a position in stocks? Are they buying stocks with that money?
Correct. They're buying stocks with that money, but they have to learn which stocks to buy. What stocks historically go up over time. And that's why in the Wealthy Investor Program, we stay within this thing called the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the top 30 stocks in the stock market, and the S&P 500. So you have to learn what that is and what that means. Well, most of those companies that are included in those two indexes do very well. Some don't. We call them dates in the Wealthy Investor Program. So you have to learn a good date from a bad date. And guess what happens? When you learn to date better with your money, automatically you get wealthier.
I think this is a perfect segue into my question for you, which is, Given being unmessable with is not about having perfect circumstances or being a millionaire or any of that. It's
Mhm.
really about being able to be resilient. And no matter what life is throwing at you, what circumstances you're dealing with, what challenges you're dealing with, being able to stay true to your vision and
Yes.
fulfill on your dreams. Can you look into your life and share with us a time where you were really dealing with something very difficult that could have taken you down for the count, but you were
Mhm.
able to rise from the ashes, so to speak, or be unmessable with?
Yes. And for a lot of people, it was divorce. Now, I can't say a lot about my divorce because I'm not supposed to say a whole lot publicly, but I'll just talk about the emotional
Yes,
impact that
that's
it
what
had.
messed with you. Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, that was by far the biggest challenge to my beliefs because I had, we had property together. We had built this beautiful home together, investments and
Children.
all of that. Children, yes. And for those of you who don't know, when you get divorced, depending upon your state, you must give up at least half of that. So, knowing that the law required that I had to give up at least half, this is actually what I thought about. Okay, so if you're really the wealthy investor, why don't you make back 10 times what you're giving up? Like, why don't you accept that challenge? Which actually I was able to do quite easily because I believe, right, and this is foundational for me, regardless of what's going on externally, I believe that the universe is on my side.
Mm,
Right? That there are forces in the universe that say, hey, if you help yourself, you can help thousands of other people. The more you earn, the more people you can help, the more money you can give away. So this was a very challenging set of circumstances because my fear was after this divorce that I would, maybe about 6 weeks after the divorce was final, I'd be in a motel room and I'd have that room with the sign that says vacancy right out. They'd be like, this is the only room
yeah,
we have for you.
flashing and the
Yes.
dark light, the yellow light bulb in the room. I can see it in a TV movie.
And because my mind imagination is very vivid, I'd have a cart of Chinese food and I'd be sitting by that sign. It would be like vacant, vacant, vacant as I'm eating my Chinese food off my hot plate. So I was like, I don't want that to happen. So consciously, I was like, okay, what if this divorce is not just an ending of something, but it's the beginning of
Yeah,
something big? How would you behave? And I was like, well, I would do this, that, that. I wrote those steps down and I treated it as if something extraordinary was about to happen. And guess what? Within 3 years, something extraordinary happened, and I made $500,000 in 2.5 weeks. And
amazing.
I was just thinking about this the other night because someone said, "Hey, when you make this 500,000, right? Um, the day it's complete, you need to go to a resort and spend the whole weekend at the resort because you're going to be exhausted." So I had this $500,000 payday. I went to this Camelback resort in Arizona, and I was like, I am so tired. But I had planned a massage and all that. And I thought, I'm going to sleep here the whole weekend and put the do not disturb sign on. Let me tell you, it was 6 hours of sleep. I'm like, let's go, world.
Exactly. I was like, why would you be so tired? That sounds very exhilarating to me.
I'm like, I have $500,000 in 2 weeks because I knew that money put into the stock market would produce hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that weekend was really when I experienced a major shift. Like, see, you're not at a motel room with vacant, vacant. You're at a five-star resort in Arizona waiting for your massage. So that
Exactly.
was the indication to me that, like, hey, listen, if I embrace a whole new belief system, this could permanently be my life. And fortunately, it has been. So your beliefs are everything. My beliefs are everything. And I think this is one of the reasons why my program is so successful because I am constantly up leveling and challenging myself. Like I thought once you had $1 million, you stop. No, why don't you go to 10? Why not go to 20? Why not go to 100 million? Okay, Mr. Smarty Pants, can you go to 100 million? And guess what happened? A plan emerged over a weekend. And I was like, I think I'm going to go for that. Only my close friends know that. You look at you, Barbara
Well,
Walters, you
now
got that out
everybody,
of me.
yeah, exactly.
But that I know. We'll see if it happens. But that challenge forces me to grow, to change, to be around a whole new set of people. And that is what has happened in my life. Particularly the last 30 days have been just extraordinary. So
Amazing.
if you believe it is possible, and yet you have a set of tools that help you uh, for that new reality to be ushered in, the universe goes, no problem, because it really doesn't care how much money you make, right? It's just another thing in your life. The core values to me that are most important is that I'm kind to people, that I take an interest in people other than myself, that every day I do a little something to help someone else. And in my meditation the other night, I was like, I realized that I have to do something that is kind to me every day. That
Yes.
if my accountant calls and says, hey, you didn't sign this form, I'm never hard on myself. I'm like, oh, now you need a team of people, and someone called and said, you didn't sign this form. So if I'm kind to myself, I'm instantly kind to others. And that's huge for me. So I think when I get up on stage or I'm in front of people, at a Hilton hotel teaching, they feel that energy, that love that I have for them. They develop love for me. And then I go, are you willing to do these trades on Monday?
Yes, and I've obviously been in those rooms and I have done those trades, and it's amazing when I mean I find this in the work that I do with people in coaching people. If people are coachable, like if
Mm-hmm.
your students actually do what you say, this is
Yes.
the only time I've ever seen you irritated is when people argue with you
Yeah.
about what you're telling them. That makes me laugh so hard whenever I'm there. I'm just like, did you not pay money to listen to this coaching? Like, why are you, this is like having a trainer tell you do sit-ups and you're like, what about if I do push-ups? It's like, do the
Yes.
sit-ups. This is what I'm telling, just do what I say and you'll have what you
Yes.
want, and I see you every
Correct.
once in a while sort of getting like, okay, I'm just going to repeat this again, but
Correct.
I laugh.
Because along, and I'm sure you found this in your work, along the journey, especially when you're at a live event, some people want to be noticed. They're not thinking about the Delta 50 and how it converts as the stock moves up. They're like, hey, everybody, I'm here. And so that slows down the process when someone is just like, look at me. So they'll ask a question that's a little off topic. So sometimes I have to go, hey, we all see you. Yes, you're here. Could we get back to the matter at hand? Because they want the teacher's attention, right? Some people have to ask questions because they're having a hard time believing that this $10,000 trade can go off perfectly in 7 days. That is a lot for most people to take. So
Yes.
sometimes people are asking you questions because they're in a process, even though they're open and they've given up their whole weekend to be there. They're in a process and they need you to talk it out with them,
Well, I
you
know
know?
I've had to sort stuff out where I'm like, I don't get it. It doesn't, until it makes sense to me, I
Mm-hmm.
can't do it because if I'm not
Correct.
at the source of something, and it's also money, right? So it's like, I don't want to just
Yes.
be frivolous or irresponsible with my money. If I'm at the source of a trade and I lose money for a few weeks, I mean, first of all, it always comes back. That's the one thing that I got. It's like, oh, last year the market was so down. I was like, all right, I'm chasing Apple, I'm chasing Apple, I'm chasing Apple. But you know what? It's Apple. It's going to come back. I mean, we're not talking about Joe
Correct.
Schmo, whatever. So you're in it for the long run,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to pivot is so important. So when I think about, money, or I
Mm-hmm.
think about my trades, I'm not thinking, okay, I'm marrying this stock for the rest of my life. I'm giving my word to this stock. It really is like dating. And before I met my husband, which was 30 years ago, I dated a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
I was never attached to any of them because it was like, it was a good date, it was a bad date. I wasn't looking for anything from them, but like, let's have a nice date. So that's kind of like how I've been approaching the stocks. It's like, okay, HD, we'll date him for right now, but you know what? Next month, maybe it'll be Amazon, and maybe I'll date Amazon for a few months. It just
Correct.
depends on how well it goes. So it's a lot of freedom that
Mm-hmm.
I've discovered for myself. And I know that's very important to you, for
Mm-hmm.
people to experience freedom, not just financial freedom, but freedom in life. So
Yes.
talk a little bit about what you could offer people, like as an action they could take today to
Yeah.
start developing that world of freedom for themselves.
Well, I definitely want to help them to ask them to download something for free, right? Because that's where your education starts. But I just want to back up because you raised a
Yep.
very interesting point. people go, hey, Tyrone, I'm down to try your methodology and to have it work, but I don't want to lose any more money. I'm like, you have to lose money
Yeah.
because that's the only way that you're going to learn and grow. There have to be losses, right? You have to feel that. So you go, oh, maybe I should trade it the way the teacher said I should do it. Or the stock market doesn't work that way. So losses are part of the game.
Yes.
Okay. So even I experienced losses after 25 years of trading. An options position will move against me. But here's the thing about the market that I really love. As long as I'm right 90% of the time, 10% being wrong, you can become a multimillionaire that way. So
Yeah.
losses don't scare me. Therefore, I am not trading with fear. And that's what I watch my students go through. Like if I take a loss here, but I am up 10,000 on the month and the loss is $3,000, I net $7,000, I'm still winning. Your accountant at the end of the year goes, how do you get all these winning trades? No, I was wrong 20% of the time. Yeah, but you were right 80% of the time. You made six figures as a trader. So that's hard for people to accept, that you could be wrong and still be profitable.
I think that's so important, Tyrone, not just with the stock market, but with
Mhm,
life. You know, I said,
mhm,
I think I said it to you yesterday, that I was talking to people and I was saying, well, when was the last time you failed? This is one of my clients. And they said, I can't remember the last time I failed.
mhm.
I said, well, then you're not up to a big enough game. If you aren't
Correct.
failing, you aren't developing yourself. I mean, you know, it really is so critical. And most people have a mental block around that. They avoid failure, they avoid loss. Even my husband, because you know, I do the trading mostly. He understands it, but not quite. So I'll say, well, we took a loss on da 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 da. He's like, what, don't say that word. Loss.
Right.
I don't want to hear
Right.
that word. That's not good.
Yes.
I was like, no, it's okay, you know,
Yeah.
because we intentionally, we got paid to leave and took a law. And he like flips it. So I've had to come up with new words that don't flip him out,
Yes.
because you know, loss and failure, for some people their brains go into a survival state around that language.
Yeah.
So you know, for everybody listening, whatever it is that you want to accomplish in your life, if it's beyond what's predictable, you
Mhm.
need to reframe for yourself loss and failure to be an opportunity to develop yourself and grow, because you will never ever develop yourself if you are winning everything you're doing. You can't. It's not
Well,
possible.
language is such an important part of success, right? So I have done, so outside of being the wealthy investor, I have a media company and I lose a lot, but I lose early. So if we're about to go into a new venture, I want to get the loss out of the way. That way I'll learn really quickly and I'll multiply the gain. So I've learned to lose quickly, learn from, there's really no loss, it's only learning, and
Yeah.
move on. See, what I have found that slows up people's uh success is they get attached to the loss. Well, I lost money and that opportunity didn't work out, and this means this. No, it doesn't mean anything. It just
Doesn't
means that
mean
you move
anything.
on and don't do that again.
Exactly. Or people get like, well, you know, Pinterest, I got to stay until it goes back up. It's like sometimes you just got to cut your losses literally and just get out. Like, just get out of that stock or get out of that relationship or get out of that business, because it's not producing anything. I recently had a situation where I was doing business with some friends that I love. I love these guys and I would do anything with them. Like, I was so excited to start this venture with them. But I noticed as I was doing it in the first 6 months that every time I was engaged in a call or a meeting, it was like I was exhausted after the call. Like, it wasn't giving me
Mhm.
energy or life or excitement or anything, even though I loved them and I love what they were doing. But early on, I just was like, you know what? This is not working. And I don't
Yes,
want to invest 5 more years because I love people and I said I would do. I'm gonna end it now. I'm gonna lose early
yeah,
and pivot. And that's so
correct.
important. What have you found about that with regards to who you coach and teach with the money as an
Yeah,
advisor about
yeah.
pivoting?
Is that loss is only a learning tool. And no matter how much money you make, there are always going to be losses. I always refer everything to dating, right? So I have this one friend, and every time I talk to him, I go, "How you doing, man?" He goes, Becky broke my heart, and I can't believe she cheated on me, and that she would do this and this and this and that. I'm like, okay, I got it. That was the seventh grade. You own a law firm now. That woman who works at your law firm adores you. Yeah, but Becky, hey, Becky has gone on. Becky has a family now, right? So sometimes a loss is just part of an experience. It doesn't have to be a loaded emotional
Yeah.
experience. Did you learn anything from that? Yes, I did. What did you learn? That I was really capable of loving someone really deeply. Great. Then apply that to someone else. It's the same thing with a stock trade. When a stock trade doesn't work, actually, I see this a lot. A stock trade doesn't work for half of the students, and the other students go, but I made $15,000 on that trade. For the students that weren't able to make $15,000, maybe that's just not their trade. They don't do the analysis well. Find the ones that you actually do. So see,
Yeah.
part of a winner's mentality is taking stock in the things that you do well and the things that you don't. So I know when I run businesses what I do well and what I don't. So if I have somebody on the staff who's really terrific at XYZ, I'm like, they will
That's your
fill
job.
up for my
Exactly.
deficit. Yes.
Yeah.
And guess what? Even though I'm the boss, I'm willing to learn as much as I can from them. So
Smart,
I'm
because
always a student, right? I consider
and
myself I'm
curious.
always in a learning mode, even though I'm the guy who signs everybody's paycheck. I am willing to learn as much as I can from the people around me, period. Why? Because I like the growth and the reward elements that come from learning a new thing that enriches my life. So when am I ever really failing? I'm not really failing.
I
They're
mean, you
just some
might
things that I don't
fail
do
to
well.
hit a target. That's a failure. It's
Okay.
not you failing. You failed
No,
to hit the target. It's like Michael Jordan. He's failed to make shots more than he's made them. But I
correct.
love what you're saying about learning, because it takes me back to what you said in the beginning about going to Barnes and Noble and getting books. So it's really, you haven't veered too far from what got you to this place in the first place, is
Correct.
learning and being curious. And if you don't know how to do something, everyone who's watching or listening, a lot of people get stopped from starting new businesses or ventures because I don't know how. I don't know how to do it. I don't have the resources. I don't know. The different question that you should be asking yourself is, who knows how? And let me go
Yes.
learn from them. And whether you
Correct.
can hire them as a coach, like come to
Yes.
you and hire you, or whoever, or you get the books and
Mhm.
you learn how to do it because somebody's done it.
Well, this really blew my mind. Okay. You ready? Anything that I want to do, someone has already achieved it. Hey, I'd like to make a $10 million a month. I'd like to have a $10 million a month business. Somebody's already done that. Hey, I'd like to make $100 million. Somebody's already done that. So most of the things that I am dreaming of, someone has already accomplished it. So why don't I just learn what they did,
Exactly.
the amount of time that they learned how to do it, and then follow in their footsteps? Like I have, the other part of it, Jocelyn, success we don't talk about is like ego, right? Yeah, I'm the wealthy investor. I go through airports and people say, hey, Tyrone, the wealthy investor. Some people remember a bunch of movies that I was in. But you know what? I'm not invested egotistically in being the wealthy investor. I know I can teach people to be millionaires, and that's very empowering. But I'm more invested in the love. Did I connect with that person? Are they now making $5,000, even though I want them to be a millionaire? And to do that, you have to be there authentically for people. I can't consider myself to be a great guy because I created this brand that's very successful. So I'm not invested in um, being put on a pedestal. I am here to help people.
Yes.
And part of how I help them is free up their minds, which results in this case in more money. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
totally.
some of it really comes from my intention. I like recognition and praise like everybody else, but I'm really invested that I help that person, that I move the needle for them with my presence and with the information that I gave them. And if I ran into them on a plane or an airport, was I able to remember who they are and give them a hug and tell them something great about themselves, some positive energy in their life? So I'm not into the ego thing. Um, and as a trader, that's the fastest way to lose money, to think you're so
Mm.
great because you put on this, you know what? I've done well. I will continue to do really, really well. But was I a good human being today? And that tops
trumps
everything.
everything, so to
Oh yeah,
speak. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So, where can people find you? And I know you have something you wanted to give people as a
Yes,
gift.
yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to give everybody listening today a car. Oh, I'm sorry,
Okay,
I'm not in that. That was
fabulous.
Oprah.
Oh,
That was
that's
Oprah.
Oprah. Okay, so we're in the wrong show.
If you really want to learn about stock market trading and investing, there's a free ebook at thewealthyinvestor.net. It explains to you covered call writing. It explains to you the power of your consciousness. It's totally free. All you have to do is go there, sign up for the newsletter, and it will be emailed to you. Plus, I'll send you the weekly podcast for free. So you don't have to go online and hunt for trading stocks made easy, available everywhere. But if I could send it to you and put you in an email sequence that helps you, great. I'd love for everyone to show up at one of our live events in LA and New York, because when you're in the room with other people who have made themselves millionaires, it's a very powerful place to be because they didn't know anything about the stock market either. So it's all love, it's
Yeah.
all positivity. And here's the thing, it's all possible.
Yes.
Everything that you want for yourself financially, somebody's already done it. So come swim in that energy. You'll really love it.
And get the playbook. That's what I say. So it's
Yes.
just wonderful. Thank you so much for being
That's
here.
it. We're
And
done.
I know
That's all.
we could talk for, I think we should do this every few months so that we can have like a series of empowerment, podcast episodes for people to create freedom in their life and residual income. And I know you and I, have a special relationship, but I just do really appreciate everything that you've made possible for me and my life and my family's life. And thanks for what you do for people. One of the best things about being in Tyrone's programs is he makes sure that you're helping other people. You're not just making money to make money. And I've been able to support my parents with, trading for them. I've been teaching friends to be able to do it, been able to pay for my daughter's wedding. I mean, it's not about you. It can be about your impact. And that really inspires me and connects with my heart because I'm all about impact. So thank you for being a toolkit for people to make the difference that they want to make. And we will put everything in the show notes so people can find you. And if anything resonated with those of you watching and listening, and you got value out of today's episode, please rate and review us and share the episode with anybody who wants financial freedom in their life. There is a wealth of information on thewealthyinvestor.net and lots of videos and lots of ways to learn. So go for it. Anything else you want to say to close?
Yes, I'll just say this. When people come to the live thing, they don't realize how much humor.
Yes.
So people are like, I've been listening to your show. You're really funny up there. Well, I'm like, if we can't have a good time making money, something is wrong. So just the show, the performance part of
it's true. It is a performance.
You know what I'm teaching, Josselyne. Funny trumps the delta of any option, right?
Yes, that's right.
We were in a high level, very quick. I know we got to go. We were in a very high level Sunday session. And you remember I was teaching something very complex having to do with options. And so I always cut that with like a humorous story. And you remember the story I told about catching the train in New York and I accidentally knocked over it's not that funny.
It was funny at the time.
It was funny. I knocked over a blind man coming down the stairs to catch the number 2 train. And most of the room is filled with artists and all that. And I felt terrible about it. And I shared it in the room, right? And I said, oh, and I felt terrible. And you had to come back up because I let the audience to add their jokes. And you said, who was the real blind man that day? And I was stunned. And we had a great time. So it's not just about math. It's about celebrating life. We have a great time in those sessions.
And the camaraderie, and you get partnership and thought partners. So you don't have to do this alone. It's not something you're sitting at your computer trying to figure out what to trade. There's a community. And that really is very, very critical in anything you want to do. Have a community and a coach. That's what I say.
So thank you for your contributions to the program and the spirit in which we have fun there. So I really appreciate that.
My complete pleasure. And for everybody else, we'll see you on the next episode of Be Unmessable With, the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Be Unmessable With, the podcast. I always love that you spend a little time with us listening or watching this podcast. And I want to make sure that you get value every time you do. So I want to offer you a free 1-hour workshop on money. Does money mess with you? if you're a human being, then it likely does. At least every human being I've ever met, it messes with them to some degree. So it's not so much how much money you have, but your relationship to money. And we have a free 1 hour workshop that was co-led by myself, my good friend, media icon, Robin Quivers, and our wealth coach, Tyrone Jackson. So click below and you can have instant access to Unmessable with Money. Unleash your inner millionaire.